Hi there, I'm Miriam and welcome to Miriam's Manor. Today, you guys, I am very excited to bring to you the very first section of my resurrection scene for Easter. So this year I have decided to put this particular village in my great room area on my mantle. So my mantle is 16 feet long. So I am breaking this build apart into 3, maybe 4 different sections so that I can make sure I can store this easy when it gets time to break this down. But I do want to bring one other thing to your attention because so many of you guys, as awesome as you are, always leave me questions and comments and feedback, and I want you to know that I do read every comment and I do take what you guys say into consideration. So if I notice that I'm getting a lot of questions around the same thing, I will try to do videos based upon what you guys need. So I did not realize that I did not do a video on my channel to show you guys how to just carve into styrofoam and paint it from there. I received so many questions about, can you just make rock formations from the styrofoam and paint it instead of using the plaster of Paris or the plaster strips? And of course the answer is yes. So I have done that and showed you how to do that in this tutorial. The second thing is, some of you noticed those facade mountains that I made in my Christmas village for 2021 that were in my carnival and asked me how to make those. And so I've also showed you how to make the facade mountains in this video as well, that you can see right behind me here. So I hope that this information helps you guys and that it'll offer up some inspiration and encouragement for you to go ahead and give it a try. So I'm going to be quiet now and we're gonna get into the build. As you can see before me, I have a sea of styrofoam. I am getting ready to start my resurrection scene for Easter. I'm super excited about this build. I have been itching to get it started. So I grabbed a lot of scrap pieces of styrofoam that I had left from different projects for this. So I have some smaller, chunkier pieces, some thinner boards. So I'm going to try to see if I can use up as much scrap as possible to bring this scene to life. Now, I am not yet sure exactly how I want my layout. I have a general idea, but I'm going to start cutting up some of this styrofoam, gluing some of it together so that I can start molding this entire piece. So I'm gonna bring you in for a close-up look so you can see what I'm doing and follow along on the build. Okay, so I have these 2 pieces of a little bit larger styrofoam that I am going to be gluing together. I do have 2 products from Hot Wire Foam Factory that I'm going to be trying out today for the first time to adhere these. Now, one is a styrogoo and then the other is the foam fusion. I want to see for myself which one I like better. This one is a fast permanent bond, and it says just to apply a really thin layer and that it tacks up immediately. So I'm really curious to see how this one works. And then this one tacks up in 60 minutes and full adhesion in 12 hours. So I think for the sake of this project and time, so I can get a little bit more done today, I'm gonna try this one first. And so it has a little cap that's like secured on it, that so after you nip this top part off, you can just close it up like that. So I'm gonna nip this off. Now, I was told you only need a really thin amount of this, which is really exciting because I usually do use quite a bit of white glue when I'm doing this. So I am truly going to apply a super thin layer like that and see if it works that thin. So you can see here how thin this line is. And I'm gonna just do a little bit in the center. The instructions do say to put it on both pieces. So I'm going to do that. Now, the reason I'm not getting too close to the edge is because I do know that I'm going to be carving this edge out. So I don't want it to be too close to the edges that I'm going to be carving out. Oh, that is tacking up immediately. I really had to pull this apart in order to see that. So it really does tack up rather quickly. So this is supposed to set for 30 minutes. So I'm going to leave this alone for 30 minutes and move on to cutting some other pieces. Now I am taking my 3-inch hot knife and I'm going to cut 2 pieces of the same width to add another elevation to the last section of this board. I will then add a thin layer of the styrogoo from Hot Wire Foam Factory to both sides of the pieces and let them dry for 30 minutes. Okay, so this is what I've got. I've glued together these 2 pieces here, these 2, and those 2 over there to give me some different height variation that I will end up carving into those 3 pieces. I know that I want a road on this side, and this is kind of a generic pattern that I've come up with so far. And then I'm also going to have some hills and mountains in the back. So this is the beginning of my resurrection scene for this particular first section. And I'm going to let these set and dry for 30 minutes and come back and check them. Okay, so 30 minutes later, this thing is truly bound together. So this glue works fantastic. I am going to begin to carve these pieces and shape this hillside. I am using my freehand router from Hot Wire Foam Factory to do my initial shaping of these platforms. Now, I haven't glued these pieces down to the base layer of my platform yet because I like to do this part of the process first. And I like to use this tool for this because the wire is really strong and thick, so I am able to cut through these layers and take really large chunks out at a time more easily. After I do that and I glue everything down, then I'll follow up with my sculpting tool, also from Hot Wire Foam Factory, to do a lot of the detail carving work. I have widened my wire so I can cover more ground while shaping the front surface of this piece. So now I am using my sculpting tool to add details and crevices in the rocks. The sculpting tool and the freehand router do look a lot alike. The difference is the router has a thick, bendable, and shapeable blade. The sculpting tool has a much thinner wire, which allows for more precision, especially when adding detail to foam rocks. So to do this, I am just gliding the wire through the foam in an S-like or Z-shaped manner to create little crevices in the rocks that will really stand out once I go to paint this. I have completed carving all of the pieces, so now I am going to glue them all down to the styrofoam base and let it sit for another 30 minutes. So all of my pieces have been glued down so far and are secure. So now what I'm going to focus on is making the mountains for this area here as well as over here. So I'm gonna go pull out some more scrap styrofoam and see if I can put this together with all scrap pieces. I did find some more scrap pieces, so I'm going to make a mountain facade for this piece. I'm taking the thicker, shorter pieces to act as the base, and then I will glue the taller pieces to the front and the side of it. So now I'm just taking my Sharpie marker and drawing out the shape of my mountains. I will then take my hot knife and cut the excess off and begin to shape it. I have come out on my patio to cut these mountains because this is not a quick little cut job. These types of mountains do take quite a bit of carving, and it's best to be in a well-ventilated area. So to begin, I am going to follow the outline of my larger mountain and carve about 1/4 of an inch deep into the styrofoam. This will give the illusion that the two smaller mountains on the side are sitting behind the larger one out in front. And I am just using swooping motions going upward with my sculpting tool, and will follow this same type of pattern throughout the entire process. To carve the large mountain in the middle, I have widened my wire just a bit, and I will use the same motion, except I will make the cuts more shallow. So this is how the mountain looks put back into place in the middle. I did also decide to carve this piece on the side and add a little bit more terrain. And now I am ready to paint and to start decorating this piece. So I'm going to begin with the black wash, and I will be right back to show you what I'm mixing. Okay, so for the black wash, I have some apple barrel paint, and I am just going to pour the paint in the bowl. I'm going to use about a 70-30 ratio, about 70% paint to 30% water. So this is my paint. This is a pretty big piece, so I am using a lot of paint for this, and then I'm just going to mix this thoroughly. I'm going to apply my black wash everywhere that I have carved. I am not going to paint the top surfaces that are flat because I'm using different landscaping mats for those, so no need to waste the paint. My black wash is dry, and I will give you a close-up of the paint that I'm going to be using for this piece. The first brand is Artist Loft, which I purchased this brand at Michael's. The next two are Apple Barrel brands that can be purchased at Walmart. And lastly, we have Master's Touch, and I purchased that one at Hobby Lobby. Now, I do use the Apple Barrel brand for so many of my projects, but if you are looking for a more premium paint, I would definitely recommend the Master's Touch. So I'm going to paint this platform starting with my darkest brown first and working my way up to the lightest color. This first color is called Raw Umber, and again it's that Artist Loft brand. So I am wetting the tip of my brush only, and I'm going to make gentle sweeping motions over the front of the rock formations. Now I am not at all concerned with trying to cover up all of the black with my first layer of brown paint. As I continue to add each layer, I will get more coverage, covering up more of the black wash, to where the only thing that is going to show in the end are those dark crevices that look kind of shadowy, and that's exactly what I'm going for. My first layer of brown paint is now dry, and I am ready to add the second layer. So this color is Burnt Umber from the Apple Barrel brand, and I am going to apply this in the exact same manner that I did the first one. So my second layer of brown paint is now all dry, and you can finally starting to see the color lift a little bit. So the last color of brown paint that I am adding is called Nutmeg. And again, I am going to apply this in the exact same manner that I did the others. And you can see how much lighter this color is also from the other two. So we're going to have a lot of great variations of browns throughout this mountain. So all three brown paints are applied and dried, and I am loving this already, but I am not stopping here. I have one more detail paint that I want to add, and it is the yellow ochre through the Master's Touch brand. And this is what I'm using to highlight the mountain. So I'm not going to apply it in the same way. I am wetting the tip of my brush, but I am also taking a lot of the paint off of it to the side so that I do not have a lot of paint on my brush. And I am going to kind of just lightly dab the edges of the rocks with this paint. And I am going to cover the entire mountain in this, just sporadically here and there, highlighting the edges. The paint job is complete and I love it. I love the highlights and the different variations of the browns. So now it is time to add the landscape to this piece. And I have this grass mat that I purchased from Michael's, and all of this will be in the description box again. And I also have this sand mat that I purchased from Michael's as well that I'm going to put in the desert area. And I will be also using a moss mat later. So I am first taking these out of the roll, flattening them with my weights, and I'm going to take some white glue to tack this down to the styrofoam. Make sure you get really good coverage on this piece as you're applying it, especially around the edges so that it doesn't fold up on the ends. Also, smooth this out as much as you possibly can if you're going to be using this exact same mat. And also apply some books, or I am using some marble tiles that I had left over for weights, but make sure to put something on top of this while it is drying after you have smoothed it all out to make sure that it all dries in place. So I have glued the mat down here, and I have also glued the sand mat down over here. And so now I'm just going to fill in the rest with regular sand that I bought to match. And then now I'm going to move on to these two spaces over here. I bought this moss mat at Walmart, and it is 18 inches wide by 4 feet long. This particular roll was $12, so I'll have plenty to complete this project and even have some left over. So I'm going to just take this out of the package, cut it to size, and glue it down the exact same way that I did the other pieces. Now I am going to do the exact same thing on the lower level, applying this in the exact same way. As soon as I press it down, it really sits firmly in place. So now I am going to take the exact same brand of moss, but it is the loose moss, and I am going to glue this down along the edges of the moss mat to give it a more natural transition so that you do not see these harsh cut lines. So now I'm going to move over to the desert section of this platform. I am applying some glue along the edges of where I have this sand mat cut so that I can cover that up with the loose sand and again give it a more natural finish. I picked up this sand from Michael's, and I want to say for this jar it was $4. So I did try to make sure that I closely matched the sand as much as I could to the mat that I was using so there wouldn't be a ton of color variation. So I'm just going to sprinkle this throughout where I have the glue and cover up those seam lines. So this is the final result and how it all turned out. It is exactly how I want it to be, and I just could not be more pleased with the way that this turned out. Now, as you can see, I obviously have not decorated this with anything yet. There's still a lot that I'm going to be putting on this, like trees and shrubbery. I am going to add more sand to this area once I get this platform set in place in its permanent home. But I just wanted to at least give you guys the finished result look, and you will have to join me back for the next video to see how I put this all together. So if you are still watching all the way to the end, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up for this video. As always, if you guys have any questions at all, please leave me a line in the comment section. I will get back with you. And I cannot wait to show you how I'm going to decorate all of this out and to also get started on the next section in this build. So those videos are coming soon. Click on that notification bell so that you don't miss it. And until I see you again, stay safe, God bless you, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.